Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We are continuing our study of Bhakti Vaibhav course. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkrapatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्णचैतन्यमीश्वरम् नमावुं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्दा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं मुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपः कुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः Hare Krishna, everybody. So we have successfully completed 3 chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam, and by now I believe you all have memorized the 6 questions asked by the sages of Naimisharanya and the answers given. If I may ask, what is the name of chapter 1? Anybody? Title of chapter 1?
Questions by the sages.
Yes, very nice. Questions by the sages. Chapter 2.
Divinity and Divine Services.
Yes, Divinity and Divine Service. Very nice. Chapter 3.
Krishna, the fountainhead of, I don't
The
know.
source. Yeah, Krishna, the source of all
The source of all
incarnation. Very nice. And chapter 4.
Appearance of the Narada.
Yes, appearance of Sri Narada.
Sri
That
Narada.
is
Sri Narada. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So we are in chapter 4, appearance of Sri Narada. So far, I think it's very clear what happened. The sages of Naimisharanya, they gathered, they were doing a sacrifice to mitigate the effects of the age of Kali, and they didn't see any result. And that is when Sutta Goswami appeared on the scene. And seeing the great qualities of Sutta Goswami, he was given the seat of honor and he was asked to speak, right? So the Goswami was asked to speak because the sages had questions. They asked the 6 questions and the 6 answers were received. Okay, the answers were received by through the medium of Sutta Goswami. So now what happened? The answers itself triggered more questions in their heart because the Bhagavatam is not going to end after chapter 3. There is so much more to go, right? So unless the conversation continues, how will the Bhagavatam continue? So the answers triggered more questions. Now, what was the last answer that was received for the 6th question? What was the answer received? Anybody can tell? It was at the end of chapter 3. That's why we are talking about it.
Krishna is Svadhamo Upagati. That shloka.
Krishna is Svadhamo Pagate Dharma Jnanadibisaha. So in that, what was told to the sages?
That Srimad Bhagavatam is like a sun, dispel the darkness of the ignorance of Kali Yuga. Question was after Krishna's disappearance, where did Dharma takes shelter. So it was Srimad Bhagavatam.
Correct, Srimad Bhagavatam. So the answer was Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna, he went to his dham, he took away dharma and jnana, everything was gone, and this world was covered with darkness in the age of Kali. And in the people in the age of Kali, we seek light in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So as Krishna set, the light of Srimad Bhagavatam rose. So that's what happened. And actually, I read something very nice from Chakravarti Path's commentary, and I noted it, but I didn't tell it in the previous class. So I thought I'll at least read that part, what he said about this rise of Bhagavatam during the end of Kali Yuga. I mean, during the beginning of Kali Yuga. So this was verse number 43. I'll just read his commentary. It was very beautiful, the last part of his commentary. Um, Yeah. From this, that is this verse, Krishna Swadhamopadate, from that, the following inference can be made. Krishna is the sun and Mathura is like sunrise mountain. So the eastern mountain where the sun rises. Prabhas Kshetra, where Krishna disappeared, is the sunset mountain. The righteous persons are like Chakravaka birds which mourn in the night. Because when Kali came, the world was filled with darkness, and all the righteous people are mourning because righteousness is gone. So the righteous people are like the Chakravaka birds which mourn in the night and rejoice in the day. The evil persons are like fog. Darkness is the totality of sins. The devotees are like grove of lotuses because a lotus blossoms only when there is light, right? So the devotees are like grove of lotuses. Krishna clearly compared to the sun in the following verse, of course. There is a quote about a particular verse from Bhagavatam 3:7. My dear Vidura, the sun of the world, Lord Krishna has set, and our house has now been swallowed by the great snake of time. What can I say to you about our welfare? Though the sun of Krishna has set, what happened? The sun of Bhagavata Purana has risen. A form corresponding to the sun becomes the sun. So to replace the sun, you need another sun. The sun is the only replacement for the sun. So if the sun of Krishna has set in Prabhas, then what happens? The sun of Bhagavatam rises to blossom all the lotuses, the grove of lotuses who are the devotees. The devotees are also compared to Chakravaka birds, especially the righteous persons. Okay, they're compared to Chakravaka birds, and when righteousness is not there, they are all mourning. They are waiting to see the sun. So at that time, Krishna comes in the form of Bhagavatam as the sun. So it was very poetic. I wanted to read it last class itself, and I couldn't. I forgot actually. So just thought of reading that. Okay, so now we will go to Srimad Bhagavatam, text number 1, chapter number 4, the appearance of Narada Muni. So keep the flow of the story in mind. So now they have heard answers, and hearing the answers, they are going to have more questions. So that is what is going to happen. So let's see. व्यास उवाच इति ब्रुवाणं स्तूय मुनीनां दीर्घसत्रिणां वृत्तकुलपतिसूतं ब्रवृच्च शौनको ब्रवीत्. Translation, someone?
Sri Vyasadeva said, on hearing Suta Goswami speak thus, Chanakya Muni, who was the elderly learned leader of all the rishis engaged in that prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Suta Goswami by addressing him as follows.
So now, thank you, Prabhu. So now what happened? They have sought answers to all their questions. So when a speaker gives answers and gives them knowledge, it's not that we just keep asking questions. First and foremost thing, we thank them, right? So after the class is over, we say, thank you very much. We congratulate the speaker. So similarly, the Shaunaka Muni, who is the leader of all those sages, what were his qualification of Shaunaka Muni? He was very, very elderly. Okay, that is one qualification. Vriddha, he was elderly. He was Kulapati, he was the leader of the assembly, and he was also very, very learned. So these are the three qualities mentioned for Shaunak Muni. So he was a leader, he was a Kulapati, and he was also well learned. So this Shaunaka Muni, who is the leader, he congratulates Suta Goswami. Okay, here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about the quality of the listener and the speaker. He says, in a meeting of learned men, when there are congratulations or addresses for the speaker, the qualification of the congratulator should be as follows. Okay, so just like in many, we have many forums, in person, online, in the temple. There is a huge gathering. Many people are sitting and listening, and there is one representative who thanks the speaker once the class is over. So what are the qualification of the leader who thanks the speaker? That is what is mentioned in this verse. So it is said, he must be the leader of the house and an elderly person. He should not be like very young and, it's not like you should allow a kid or a youngster to go and do this service. He must be the leader of the house and an elderly person, and he must be vastly read. Okay, these are the three qualifications that is mentioned in the verse. Also, Sri Shaunaka Rishi had all these qualifications, and therefore he stood up to congratulate Suta Goswami when he expressed his desire to present Bhagavatam as he read exactly from Shukadev Goswami, and he also realized it personally. So Shaunaka Rishi, who is the leader, who's very well learned and who's also elderly, he got up and he congratulated Shukadev. He congratulated Suta Goswami. Why did he congratulate Suta Goswami? Because he spoke very well. How did he speak? He spoke yataditam yatamati. That means he spoke what he heard from Shukadev Goswami. We saw this in the previous class also. The importance of yataditam yatamati. He already said that. Actually, Suta Goswami himself says in the previous chapter, he says, I have told you what I have heard with added realizations. He said that, right? So now why is Shaunaka congratulating Suta? Shaunaka is congratulating Suta because he was appreciating the fact that Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken as he had heard it from Shukadeva Goswami, and he had also added his personal realizations, and he did it perfectly. So when the leader of an assembly is congratulating the speaker, the leader congratulates the speaker simply because he spoke as it is. It is very important. If we do not speak as it is, or if we are just adding our mental concoctions to the katha, then it is not very pleasing to the assembly. Okay, here our leader of the assembly was very, very pleased because Suta Goswami not only spoke what he heard, he also added his personal realizations. Now, what kind of personal realizations? Prabhupada clarifies that. He says, personal realization doesn't mean that out of your vanity, you attempt to show off your learning, trying to surpass what the Purvacharyas have written. We should not be too smart when we speak. Sometimes we are asked to give classes. Sometimes our realizations outsmart what our acharyas have given. So that is not the mood of adding personal realizations. Personal realization should be in line with the previous acharya. One must have full confidence in the previous acharya. At the same time, one must grasp the subject matter and add his realizations according to the circumstances and present it in a suitable manner. So what do we mean by adding realizations when we speak? According to the time, place, and circumstance, we add certain things that is useful for the audience. At the same time, what we add as realization should not be contradictory to what is presented by the acharyas. So that is something we have to keep in mind. Prabhupada is very nicely highlighting this point. He says, the original purpose of the text must be maintained. If the original purpose of your class is to glorify bhakti and in the name of realizations, you are underestimating bhakti, then the original purpose is lost. Okay, that's just an example. So we should be very, very careful to know that we maintain the original purpose of the text. No obscure meaning should be screwed out of it. Yet, it should be presented in a very interesting manner for the sake of the audience. Okay, we cannot make up stories, or we cannot say something that the Acharya hasn't said, and we cannot draw some random meanings, obscure meanings that will twist the purpose of the text. So we should be extremely careful when we present something that is there in Shastras. Especially when we talk about something from scripture, it should be as it is. Okay. Yes, we can add our realizations according to time, place, and circumstances so that it is easy for the audience to understand. Sometimes we only focus on entertainment, how entertaining it is going to be for the audience. The audience should get entertained. That is sometimes the purpose of many people's speech, but it should not be like that. The purpose of us adding realizations is to add these realizations in a manner it is easy for the audience to understand. This is called as realization. Okay, this is about the speaker. Now, this leader of the assembly, Shaunaka, he could estimate the value of a speaker. Now, that is also a very, very important quality of the leader of an assembly. Okay, the person who is unmuting in a Zoom call, or maybe in an in-person class in the temple, who's taking the mic to congratulate the speaker on behalf of the audience, should estimate the value of the speaker, should understand what the speaker has spoken. Now, Shaunaka could estimate the value of Suta Goswami because Suta Goswami simply uttered these words. What did Suta Goswami do towards the end? He uttered the words, Yataritam Yatamati. I have just repeated. He said, I repeated the words of Shukdev Goswami, but I could grasp the essence and I've just added a few realizations of mine. Therefore, the leader of the assembly was very, very glad and he congratulated him in ecstasy. So nice, right? In one purport, Prabhupada is telling us about how we should give classes, how the speaker should be, and how we should respond to good classes. So no learned man should be willing to hear a person who does not represent the original Acharya. If the original Acharya is not represented properly, we should reject. Okay? It's not that we say everything is okay and then we become a hodgepodge of many things. No, we should be very, very clear. So the speaker and the audience were bona fide, where the meeting of the Bhagavatam was recited for the second time, Prabhupada is telling. The first time was when Shukadev Goswami spoke to Parikshit Maharaj. Now, what is Suta Goswami doing? He said, I am repeating the same thing with added realizations. So even in this assembly, the second assembly also, here also the speaker and the audience both were bona fide. The leader of the audience was bona fide and the speaker, Suta Goswami, was bona fide. This is the standard of recitation of Bhagavatam so that the real purpose can be served without any difficulty. Unless the situation is created, Bhagavatam recitation for extraneous purposes is useless labor, both for the speaker and audience. If you are only worried about fancy entertainment, then it's only useless labor. It's of no use. It's temporarily, it might bring some satisfaction to the mind, but the real transformation of the heart is not possible. Okay, so one of the most interesting purports of Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada's every purport is interesting, but I just wanted to read this line by line. It is really, really nice. Text 2. So what happened? They congratulated Suta Goswami, but then he had something to ask. So let's see what Shaunaka is telling. Shaunaka uvacha Suta Mahabhago Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatam Vara Katam Bhagavatim Punyam Yad Aha Bhagavan Shuka. So translation, someone?
Translation by Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki jai. Shaunaka said, O Suta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate the pious message of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Sukadeva Goswami. Hare Krishna.
Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. So, at the end of the previous chapter, he heard that Srimad Bhagavatam is the thing that is going to bring light for the people in the age of Kali. And towards the end of the previous chapter, this Suta Goswami also mentioned he heard it from Shukadev Goswami when Shukadev was speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, and he's repeating, right? Now, Shaunakadi Rishis, they were so excited. Oh, there must be a great conversation that happened between Shukdev Goswami and Parikshit, and Suta Goswami has recorded everything. So it's not that we just want answers to these 6 questions. We want to hear the entire Bhagavatam that was spoken by Shukdev Goswami to Parikshit. That entire Srimad Bhagavatam we also want to hear. So they say Suta Bhaga. So Suta, excitement, you call them twice. So out of respect and out of adoration, Shaunaka was telling Suta Mahabhaga. He was so happy. This is so amazing, he was thinking. So he calls out to Suta Goswami. Wait, yeah. And then let's see what Prabhupada says in the purport. Suta Goswami is twice addressed herein by Shaunaka Goswami out of joy, because he and the members of the assembly were so eager to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, they were not at all interested in listening to Srimad Bhagavatam from a bogus person who would interpret it in their own ways. So Prabhupada is telling that there are so many so-called Bhagavatam speakers. Many of them are professional readers. They just do it as a business and they earn money. Some others are very learned, but they are impersonalists. They have not understood the greatness and the transcendental activity of the Supreme Lord. These impersonalists, what they do is they twist the actual meaning of the books according to their own views. And sometimes they just jump directly to the 10th canto to explain the Lord's pastimes. So such people, they are not bona fide to recite the Srimad Bhagavatam. So anyone who's able to repeat in the light of Shukadeva Goswami, like Suta Goswami, they are the ones who are fit to recite the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's what Prabhupada is writing here, that Suta Goswami was very bona fide, and Shaunakadi Rishis, they were very excited to hear from Suta Goswami. So now after this, what happens is this Shaunakadi Rishis, they are going to ask 3 specific questions. Initially, 6 questions were asked. After that, Shaunakadi Rishis, they congratulated Suta Goswami and they said, we want to hear the entire Bhagavatam. But in what order? What are the questions you should first address for us while you are reciting the entire Bhagavatam? They come up with 3 questions. So the first question is going to be mentioned in text number 3. The first question is about the history of Srimad Bhagavatam. Later, they will also ask the second question, which is about Parikshit Maharaj, and they will ask the third question, which is about Shukadeva Goswami. Okay, so now let's see what all they are going to ask about Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is text number 3. Kasmin yuge pravriteyam sthane vakena hetuna kuta sanchodita Krishna kritavan samhitam muni. Translation, anyone?
In what period and at what place was this first begun? And why was this taken up? From where did Krishna Dvaipanya Vyasa, the great sage, get the inspiration to compile this literature? Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Kasmin Yoge, which yuga, at what time, which period was this Srimad Bhagavatam composed? Iyam Sthane, which was the place chosen to write the Srimad Bhagavatam? Where from this Krishna got the inspiration to write this literature? So, Kutaha Sanchoditaha Krishna Kritavan Samhitam Munihi. So he's called as Krishna. That's all his name is. So Srila Vyasadev. Vyasa means a person who divides. Okay, such a person is called as Vyasa. Vyasa means to classify or to divide. That's all the meaning of Vyasadev is. He's called as Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasadev. His name is Krishna. Okay, and he was born in a Dvipa. So he's called as Dvaipayana because he was born in a Dvipa. He was born in an island, so he's Dvaipayana. That's why his name is Krishna Dvaipayana, and Vyasa is a post. He holds the post of being a Vyasa. So his actual name is Krishna. So here, Kuta Sanchodita Krishna Kritavan Samhitam Munihi. This Samhita or this huge, humongous literature, how did he get the inspiration to compile it? So this is the question that is being asked. So let's see what the purport says. Prabhupada is telling, because Srimad Bhagavatam is a very, very special contribution of Vyasadeva, Shaunaka Muni wanted to know exactly which place, how it was begun, and how he got the inspiration. Now, Vyasa is known to have written everything. Written means what? He has compiled and presented everything. He has presented all the 4 Vedas. He has also presented the Mahabharata. He has presented a huge gamut of Vedic literature. But then specifically Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very transcendental. Okay, it is the special work of Srila Vyasadeva. So Shaunaka is very, very interested to know about the special literature that is beyond anything that is mundane. So even when we ask questions, Prabhupada is telling here, the inquiries are very intelligent and relevant. When we ask questions, we should know what kind of questions to ask. Because Shaunaka could understand that this Srimad Bhagavatam is extremely special. It has risen after the departure of Krishna. It is giving light to the entire world. He could understand the value that it is not any ordinary literature. Therefore, he is asking more about that literature. His inquisitiveness is very, very valid. It is relevant. It is intelligent. So here we see the quality of questions that one should ask. One should ask relevant, intelligent questions that are useful for everybody. So our Shaunakadi Rishis, they were very, very smart, especially our leader Shaunaka. He asked an intelligent and relevant question about Srimad Bhagavatam. So he asked, where was it composed? How was it composed, and what was the inspiration for Vyasadeva to compose this piece? When was it composed? Which yuga, where, and then what was the inspiration? So he asked about Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he had something else to say. He also wanted to tell about the speaker of the Bhagavatam and the listener of the Bhagavatam. So original conversation that was between Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit. So now he begins to talk about Shukadeva Goswami. First question is asked. The first question was about Bhagavatam. So text number 4 is going to be about Shukadeva Goswami. Tasya putro mahayogi samadren nirvikalpakaha ekanta matir unnitro gudho mudha iveyate. Translation. Someone for translation.
He's,
Translation.
can I go, Mataji?
Yeah, go ahead.
He's
Second.
Vyasadev's son was a great devotee, an equivalent monist whose mind was always concentrated in monism. He was transcendental to mundane activities, but being exposed, he appeared like an ignorant person.
So this Vyasadev's son, the Shukadeva Goswami, who was the speaker, he was a Mahayogi. Mahayogi, you all know what Mahayogi is. He's a great devotee. He was Samadrik, that Nirvikalpakaha. That means he was equibalanced. His mind was equibalanced. And he was a monist, meaning he was an impersonalist, actually. How was he an impersonalist? Ekantamatihi. His mind was fixed in the oneness of the Lord. Okay. Unnidraha. He was surpassed in Nis. He had surpassed Niscience. That means he was beyond the modes of material nature. His thoughts and activities were beyond the modes. Gudaha. He was not exposed. His real nature was not seen easily. Okay. He appeared mood. He appeared stunned. And completely lost. These were the qualities of Shukadeva Goswami. So Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul, and he was not trapped by the illusory energy. He was completely fixed in monism, which means his activities were completely absorbed in the impersonal Brahman. It was not hovering in the material platform. And the liberated soul and conditional soul, we all have different engagement. So we all are conditioned, right, in this material world. But then the liberated souls, they are always continuously thinking of the spiritual path. For a conditioned soul, we cannot understand how the liberated soul functions, and the liberated soul cannot understand how a conditioned soul functions. This is there in the Bhagavad Gita. Anyone knows this verse? The conditioned soul cannot imagine the actual engagements of the liberated soul. While conditioned soul thus dreams about spiritual engagements, the liberated soul is awake. This sentence is actually a verse from Bhagavad Gita. Second
Yanisha
chapter.
sarvabhutana tasyam jagati samani yasyam jagati
Hari
Yanisha pashatu muni.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Narahari Prabhu. Yes, Yanisha Sarvabhutana. Yes. So when the conditioned soul dreams about spiritual engagements, the liberated soul is awake, and vice versa. That which is night. Here is the verse. We can actually show the verse and read the translation also. 2.69. Yanisha Sarvabhutana. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-control, and the time of awakening for all beings is the night for the introspective sage. So that is what Prabhupada is also mentioning here in this purport. So this Shukadeva Goswami, he was completely on the liberated platform. It is very, very difficult for a conditioned soul to understand a liberated soul. Why? Because the conditioned soul is always engaged in sense enjoyment, while a liberated soul is always engaged in self-realization. We are absorbed in matter, but they are indifferent into matter. So that indifference is what is mentioned in this particular verse. He was completely indifferent. How was he indifferent? How do we understand that he was indifferent? This is what was happening with him. So that is verse number 5. दृष्ट्वानुयन्तं ऋषिमात्मजमपि अनङ्गं देव्यो ह्रिया परिददूर्न सुतस्य चित्रं तद्वीक्ष्य पृच्छति मुनौ जगदुस्तवास्ति स्त्रीपुंभीदनतुत्सूतस्य विविक्तदृष्टे. So what happened with him? That is mentioned here. It's a very famous instance. Everybody knows this. But if someone can read the translation.
I can
While
read,
she
Mataji. Thank you. Go ahead, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, I'll read. You're reading, Mataji? Okay, go ahead, please.
While Sri Vyasdev was following his son, beautiful young damsels who were bathing naked covered their bodies with cloth, although Sri Vyasdev himself was not naked. But they had not done so when his son had passed. The sage inquired about this, and the young ladies replied that his son was purified, and when looking at them, made no distinction between male and female. But the sage made such distinctions. Hare Krishna.
So Vyasadev's son was Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami was not even wearing any clothes. He was completely undressed. And he was walking, and Vyasadeva was following Shukadeva Goswami, trying to, ask him to come back. He was just walking away, and Vyasadeva was following him. But at that time, there were some beautiful damsels who were bathing in the river without a cloth on their bodies. So when they saw Vyasadeva, they immediately gathered their clothes and they wanted to cover themselves. But they did not do that when Shukadeva Goswami was passing. Okay, Shukadeva Goswami was not even wearing clothes and he was going like that. These damsels, they didn't care. Yeah, Shukdev Goswami is passing by, so what? But then the minute they saw Vyasadeva, they gathered their cloth and they started covering themselves. And when they were asked, why is that? Why is that when Shuka went, none of you cared? But then you see Vyasadeva, who's actually a more senior person, who is in fact the father of Shukdev Goswami. Shukadev was a young boy. But this Vyasadeva was a much elderly person. But then why did the ladies have a different reaction when they saw Vyasadeva? When this was inquired to the ladies, the young ladies replied that his son was purified, and when looking at him, made no distinction, looking at them made no distinction between male and female, but the sage made such distinctions. And Chakravarti Padi writes a very nice purport to this. Of course, we will read the purport of Srila Prabhupada, but one point he mentions is very interesting. He says the ladies are telling, when we see the eyes of a man, we know the man's intentions. I think all the ladies will vouch for this. So when you look at the eye of a man, you'll know with what mindset that man is looking, okay, towards the woman. So everybody will know this. So that's what Chakravarti Pad says. So we know from his eyes, when we see Shukadev Goswami's eyes itself, it's completely absorbed in the thought of Brahman. He's not even going to care whether we are male or female. But then you are a grihastha. You know the distinctions between male and female. You might not really have the perfect vision towards male and female. I mean, like, to see everyone as a spirit soul, that kind of vision you might not have. So just by testing the eyes of a man, a woman can know this. That is what Chakravarti Pad actually very nicely highlights. But we'll see what else Prabhupada has to say in this purport. This is a famous verse, 5.18. You all know this, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmani Gavihastini. 5.18. It is said, a learned sage looks equally on a learned gentle Brahmana, a Chandala, a dog, a cow due to spiritual vision. So, Suni Chaiva Shwapakecha Pandita Samadarshina, right? That means a sage has equal vision. Why does he have equal vision towards a Brahmana or a Chandal or a male or a female or a dog or a cow? Because he's seeing the Paramatma in everyone's heart. He has the spiritual vision. He understands everybody is a spirit soul. The outer covering may be different, but we are all spirit souls. That kind of understanding a learned sage has. This was the kind of understanding that Shukadev Goswami had. He did not say, this is a man, this is a woman. No, for him, everybody is spirit soul. So Shukadev Goswami had attained that samadrishti. He was in that stage. He did not see male and female and didn't see living entities in different dresses. So the ladies who were bathing, they could understand the mind of a man. Even Prabhupada is saying this. He says the ladies could understand the mind of a man simply by studying his demeanor. How he talks, how he sees, how he works. Just by studying his demeanor, a person will know what the man's intention is. Just as by looking at a child, one can understand how innocent the child is. So when you see a little child, you can see the innocence that is coming. Similarly, when you see any man, you will know the intentions of that man. So Shukadeva Goswami was a boy who was just 16 years old. And in fact, all the parts of his body were fully developed. It's not that he was a baby, okay? He was 16 years old and he was not even wearing clothes. But still, the ladies, by their special qualifications, Prabhupada says here, he says the ladies have their special qualifications and they can sense what the man is. So the ladies, by their special qualifications, could sense this at once, and therefore they were not concerned, because they could see immediately, this was a transcendental person. He doesn't care. So they didn't even cover themselves. But then when the father passed, it's not that Vyasadeva is so he's a very, low person or something. That's not the intention that is being brought out here. But we should understand when Vyasadeva, he was passing by, the ladies quickly dressed. Okay. Why? Because of social custom. Srila Vyasadeva played the part of a householder. A householder has to distinguish between male and female. Though the girls were almost like the grandchildren of Vyasadeva, they were young girls, they were like grandchildren, still it is a social custom because a householder distinguishes between male and female. Otherwise, you cannot be a householder. So we should therefore attempt to know the distinction between body and soul without any attachment for male or female. As long as such distinction is there, one should not try to become a sannyasi like Shukadeva Goswami. If one wants to become a sannyasi like Shukadeva Goswami, he should not be engrossed in this thought of male and female. Even after becoming a sannyasi, unfortunately, one is always engrossed. Male, female, you are female. I will, always looking from the bodily point of view, then there is a problem. Okay, a liberated soul is about such perverted distinctions. So, of course, we should see distinction. We should be aware of the distinction. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was aware. Okay, it's not that he was not at all aware who's a man, who's a woman, and he didn't mix freely everywhere. No, he was aware of social customs, but his mind was not engrossed always. You are a woman, I am a man. That was not his consciousness. His consciousness was that he saw samadrishti in everybody. He saw everybody as being a part and parcel of Krishna, everybody having that potential to become a devotee, to be a great personality. He had respect for everybody. But at the same time, being a sannyasi, giving respect to that ashram, he was aware of the distinction. Okay, there are many instances in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life how, for example, there are many instances like the lady who actually climbed over his shoulders to get a glimpse of Jagannath, right? The attendant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very upset with that lady, but then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, it's okay, look at her eagerness with which she wants to take darshan of Sri Jagannath. But at the same time, he never compromised on the sannyas principles. So that was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is the spirit of a sannyasi. For them, everybody is spirit soul. Everybody is a part and parcel of Krishna. Everybody is a devotee. But at the same time, only for the sake of ashram, they have to see certain distinctions, but not get engrossed in that thought. You're a woman, you're not capable of anything, keep away from me. No, that's not the mood. Okay. So Srila Vyasadeva was also in the transcendental stage, Prabhupada is telling. But because he was in the householder life, he did not pretend to be a liberated soul as a matter of custom. So based on our external circumstances, we might have to execute certain duties according to time, place, and circumstance. Even Vyasadeva was a great transcendental soul. But then, because he was in a particular ashram, he did not pretend like that. But whereas Shukadeva Goswami, he was a Brahmavadi. Okay, he was an impersonal Brahmavadi, and he was completely absorbed in Brahmana, and he was working. Okay. So this is an explanation of how this Shukadeva Goswami had qualities of being an equibalanced monist, always concentrated in monism. Okay, the previous verse talks about the qualities of Shukadeva Goswami. This verse number 5, is describing an instance for us to understand how he was always absorbed like that. Okay. Now they are having a question about Shukadeva Goswami. Such a great Shukadeva Goswami, how did he come to Hastinapur and how did the citizens welcome him? How did they treat him? That was the question. Katam alakshita pauraha sampraptaha kuru jangalan unmatta mukha jadavat vicharan gajasahave. Translation, someone?
Hare Krishna. How was he, Sri Shukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasa, recognized by the citizens when he entered the city of Hastinapura, now Delhi, after wandering in the provinces of Kuru and Jangala, appearing like a madman, dumb and retarded? Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Yeah. So how did he enter the city of Hasti, the city of elephants, actually, after he passed through the provinces of Kuru and Jangala? So Gaja Sahave means, if you see this word to word, the word Gaja is used. It's not directly used as Hasti. It says Gajasahave, which means Hastinapur. That is equivalent to an elephant. Hasti is the word equivalent to an elephant. So, how did he appear as he moved into Hastinapur? How was he perceived by the citizens? Katam alakshitaha. How did they all see, all the citizens, when he entered? First, he passed through the Kurujangal provinces and then he went into the Hasti or Gaja province. And here it is identified. Hastinapur is around the city of Delhi. Now, this is the greater Delhi because technically, if you see, Hastinapur is in Meerut. That is near Delhi only. It's not very far away from Delhi. But in those days, everything was more extended. Then you had different boundaries that were made later. So anyhow, you can identify it around Delhi, Hastinapur. Indraprastha is exact Delhi, I believe. But Hastinapur is more like extended Delhi. So anyhow, Prabhupada says, the present city of Delhi, which was formerly known as Hastinapur because it was first established by the king Hasti. That's why it got to the name as Hastinapura or Gaja, the place, Gajapura or Hastinapura. Because there was this great king by the name Hasti. He ruled over this area, so it came to be known as Hastinapur. Shukadev Goswami, he comes to Hastinapur. He was roaming around like a madman. He left home. He left his paternal home. And nobody could understand his exalted position. It was very difficult. And like that, finally, after going through different places, he enters this Hastinapur. So Prabhupada is telling us that a sage is not necessarily recognized just by sight. Just by seeing a sage, you might think that he's a madman. You might get a wrong conception about a sage. But how do you identify a true sage? When you give oral reception, when you hear. Similarly, they tell about the dham also. How do you understand the greatness of the dham? Not just by going and seeing. Because if you go to Vrindavan, you might see open gutters, you will see pigs, and you'll say, this is dham? No, you should see dham with your ears. You should first hear about the dham. Then you can really see the dham when you go there. You'll see the beauty of the dham once you have heard sufficiently about the dham. Similarly, just by externally seeing a great sadhu, you cannot identify he's a sadhu. You might just mistake him for a madman. But then when you hear from a sadhu, that is when you realize his greatness. So one should approach a sadhu or a great sage not just to see him, but to hear from him. If you're not prepared to hear the words of a sadhu, then there is no profit. Just by, people say, oh, it is a great punya to just be around a great sage. No, you should hear from him. Just seeing him, yes, definitely everything is purifying. But then we should take every opportunity to hear from them. Why should we hear from a sadhu? Because the sadhu is always speaking about the transcendental activities of the Lord. Not that the sadhu is able to do some magic or a trick and then solve your material problems. That is not the mark of a sadhu. That's what Prabhupada is telling here. This sadhu, the Shukadev Goswami, he did not satisfy the whims of the ordinary citizens. Okay, he spoke Bhagavatam. He didn't do some jugglery or like a magician. He didn't do some tricks, give some ashes and then say, I will solve your problems. He didn't manifest some linga from thin air. He didn't do all that. No magic was done. He spoke the Bhagavatam. That Bhagavatam is the real transformation. That is why we go to sadhus. We go to sadhus not just to tell our problems and resolve our material problems and become more and more entangled in this world. Rather, we should hear about the subjects relating to the Supreme Lord. So outwardly, Shukadev Goswami, he appeared to be like a retarded dumb man. But however, he was very, very transcendental. He was a great personality. Okay. So they have started asking questions about Shukadev Goswami. How did the citizens of Hastinapur recognize him? Because outwardly he appeared like a dumb man. And not only that, Shukadev Goswami, it's not that he goes and he interacts with everybody, right? He doesn't have conversations like out of his, it's not like he just goes. He goes from door to door, he begs there, he gets some alms and then he sits and he chit-chats. No, he doesn't do that. He speaks only as much as needed and he speaks only subjects about Krishna. Okay, it's not that he's sitting there to take advantage of anybody. Some people, they just go door to door to beg some sadhus, just to fill their bellies. That was not the kind of personality Shukadev Goswami is. So that is verse number 7. Katam va pandave yasya rajashreirmunina saha samvadah sambhutata yatra isha satvati shruti. Translation. Anyone?
How did it happen that King Parikshit met the great sage, making it possible for this great transcendental essence of the Vedas, Bhagavatam, to be sung to him? Hare Krishna.
So, thank you, Mataji. So, continuation of that question. Yes, he went to Hastinapur. And how did it happen that Parikshit Maharaj met this sage so that he could hear the transcendental Srimad Bhagavatam sung to him? I mean, how did it happen that Parikshit Maharaj went there and he met this Shukadev Goswami, and Shukadev Goswami spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam simply because Shukadev Goswami doesn't stay at one place for too long. Okay, so that is actually text 8. But here, Prabhupada has something to tell us. He says, if you watch the word-to-word translation, it says Satvati Shrutihi. Satvati means that which is beyond the modes of material nature, which is transcendental, which is very exalted. That is called as Satvati. So, Satvati Shruti. This Srimad Bhagavatam is actually the essence of all the Vedas. It is not any, it is called a Shruti, if you see. Some people say they distinguish between Shruti and Smriti, and they say your Bhagavatam, which you call as a Praman, is only a Smriti. It is not a Shruti. Only we will take Shruti Praman. Some people will argue. But then this is not any Shruti. This Bhagavatam, it is Satvati Shruti. It is first class Shruti. It is the essence of all the Vedas. It is not any imaginary story that is being told. It is Shuka Samhita. It is the Samhita given by Shukadev Goswami himself, the realizations of Shukadev Goswami himself, the Vedic hymns spoken by Shukadev Goswami, who is a liberated soul. So how did Parikshit contact Shukadev Goswami? Because the Shukadev Goswami, he doesn't stay at the house of a householder for too long. He's not sitting and chatting with them. He's not going there to fill his belly. So that is being told in text number 8. This is a famous verse, but I don't think it's there for memorization. In fact, when I looked at the handbook, no verse from chapter 4 was there, I believe. Okay, so if it's there, correct me. And also, I heard some people had issues with submitting shlokas, copy-pasting shlokas. We'll discuss about that in the last 5 minutes, what to do. Okay. Sagodohana matram hi griheshu grihamedinam avikshate mahabhagas tirtikurvam stadashramam. Sagodohana matram hi. That means the Shukadev Goswami, he stays at the door of a householder just enough for a cow to be milked. He doesn't stay longer than that. Okay, so, and he just did this to sanctify the residents, not for his benefit. Rather, he goes and stays at the entrance of a householder to give them some benefit, to give them some spiritual knowledge, not for himself to be a recipient, or he doesn't stay there for too long. So how did Shukadev Goswami meet this Emperor Parikshit and explain this entire Srimad Bhagavatam? He doesn't stay in any place for too long. These people are asking. He's not accustomed to stay at the householder's residence for more than half an hour. How did he sit and talk to a fortunate householder who's Parikshit Maharaj? Shukadev Goswami is an ideal preacher. He was in a transcendental position. He was in the renounced order of life. And they don't have any business with householders other than enlightening them in transcendental knowledge. So they don't stay for alms. They don't stay for any such physical benefits from a householder. So how did he go there and what was his business? He was in the renounced order of life. Okay, and Prabhupada warns us, if one is in the renounced order of life, if he is going to a householder's place, just because that person is very rich, he has a lot of worldly possessions and he can stay there comfortably, then that is more dangerous than drinking poison and committing suicide. So a sannyasi should be very, very careful how he wants to associate with worldly minded people. So one should be extremely cautious. And we know this from the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. Jagdananda Pandit, he wanted to present some nice massage oil, fragrant oil, and a nice bed for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected everything. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew how much he should take, in terms of material comforts, being a sannyasi. So that was the situation of Shukadev Goswami. Shukadev Goswami wouldn't stay at a place for too long. So these people, they were all very curious. Shaunakadi rishis, how did he talk to a great king for so long? What really transpired between them? That was their curiosity. So first, text number 9 is going to talk about Parikshit Maharaj. Questions about Parikshit Maharaj. So far, we saw questions. One question. In one question, how was Bhagavatam composed? What is it written? How did Vyasadeva get the inspiration? All that was asked in one question. Then a set of verses spoke about Shukadev Goswami. How did Shukadev Goswami go to Hastinapur and how did he meet Parikshit Maharaj? Okay, because he's not accustomed to stay in any place for too long. So how did this conversation transpire? Now, from text 9 onwards, these are questions about Parikshit Maharaj. Abhimanyu sutam suta prahur bhagavatottamam tasya janma mahascharyam karmani sha grinani na. Translation, someone?
It is said that can I read my?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is said that Maharaja Parikshit is a great first-class devotee of the Lord, and that his birth and activities are all wonderful. Please tell us about him.
So Abhimanyu Sutta, he is the son of Abhimanyu, right? So Abhimanyu Sutta, how is this Abhimanyu Sutta is a first-class devotee. His janma is Mahascharya. His birth is Mahascharya. Why is his birth Mahascharya? Anyone knows?
Lord Shri Krishna entered the womb and protected him.
Yes, very nice. Yes, his birth itself is Mahascharya. Karmanicha, even his activities. His activities are also very, very relishable and very interesting because he chastises Kali, right? Kali was trying to punish a cow, and the Parikshit Maharaj, he goes and he chastises the cow. So this Abhimanyu Sutta, he was a first-class devotee. He was Bhagavatottamam, first class, top-class devotee. And his janma and his karma, both are Mahascharya. They were very, very interesting. So the birth of Parikshit Maharaj is very wonderful. Why? Because in the womb of his mother, he was protected by the Supreme Lord Krishna. And his activities are wonderful because he chastised Kali, who was attempting to kill a cow. Prabhupada is very emphatically telling, killing a cow means ending human civilization. If you kill a cow, it's the greatest sin. And this Parikshit Maharaj, even his death was also glorious. Why? Because when he knew that he had only 7 days to live, he prepared himself for the passing away. He sat down at the bank of the river Ganges and he started hearing about the Lord. During all these years, he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam. He did not eat, he did not drink anything, he did not sleep. Imagine 7 continuous days. The speaker, generally, what I have seen is that the speaker can go on speaking for hours. It's not difficult for the speaker. They can speak for 4 hours, 6 hours. Though, yes, we feel bad. Oh, the speaker has been speaking for 4 or 5 hours. But when you are a speaker, you can keep speaking. Now, if the class has to continue also, I can drink water and I can keep talking. But for the listener, it is very difficult. It is actually extremely difficult to stay on a call or to stay in a class for 6 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. We get very restless. But look at Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj, he did not take food or drink, or he did not sleep for a moment. But Shukadev Goswami was a great, he was a transcendentalist. So for him to not sleep or not drink or not eat is not a big deal. Okay. I mean, it is difficult, but definitely compared to Parikshit Maharaj, it is not something big because he is used to that lifestyle. But then Parikshit Maharaj, He was a king. He was just used to all the comforts, 3 meals a day with all the snacks and all the sweets and different varieties of drink and lots of sleep and pampering and entertainment. And he had to listen to the Srimad Bhagavatam voluntarily. He did it out of love, yes, out of interest for 7 full days without sleeping, without eating, or without drinking. So everything about him was wonderful, and his activities are worth listening attentively. So like this, the sages are asking, please tell us about his janma, karma, and also they wanted to know about how he actually ended up giving up everything and he went to the bank of the Ganges to listen from Shukadeva Goswami. So that is the next part of the verse. Here is verse number 10. स सम्राट् क्षयवाहेतो पाण्डूनामानवर्तनः प्रायोपविशितो गङ्गायाम् अनादृत्याधरात् श्रियम्. Translation, someone?
He was a great emperor and possessed all the opulences of his acquired kingdom. He was so exalted that he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. Why did he give up everything to sit down on the bank of the Ganges and fast until death? Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So he neglected all the Shriya, all the opulences. Adhirat, he had acquired the kingdom from Yudhishthir Maharaj. Actually, another way of saying Adhirat, another usage of the word Adhirat is actually Yudhishthir Maharaj, because he was Adhirat. Okay, so he acquired the kingdom from Yudhishthir Maharaj, and he had given up all the opulences. He was very, very exalted. He was enriching the entire family, Manavardhanaha. He was enriching the family. So he had great opulence. Why did he give up everything? It's not easy to give up everything. So why did he give up everything and sit in the banks of the river Ganges? In fact, he wanted to fast unto death. So what really happened with him? Prabhupada is telling in the purport, Maharaj Parikshit was the emperor of the entire world with its seas and oceans. And he inherited his grandfather's kingdom, Yudhishthir Maharaj's kingdom. This is what even Chakravarti Pad also mentions in the word to word. It was a kingdom that was inherited. So he took this kingdom, but then he administered it very nicely, giving fame to his forefathers. So much so that his forefathers were proud of him. He was ruling so nicely. And there was so much opulence in his administration. Then why? What impelled him to give up everything? Why did he want to fast until death? So this was all astonishing, and they wanted to know the cause of this. Namanti yatpadaniketamātmana shivāya hānīyadanāni shatrava katam savīra shriyamanga dustyajam yuvaisha shotra shatrum aho sahasughi. Translation.
I'll read Mataji. He was such a great emperor that all his enemies would come and bow down at his feet and surrender all their wealth for their own benefit. He was full of youth and strength. He possessed kingly opulences that were difficult to give up. Why did he want to give up everything, including his life? Hare Krishna. Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So he was very opulent. He was a great king. He had inherited the kingdom. He ruled the kingdom. He brought pride to the ancestors. And not only that, so many enemies would come and bow down at his feet and they would surrender everything. You know, if he had to challenge a nearby king, that king would just give up everything and surrender unto Parikshit Maharaj, because he was always successful. He was full of youth and strength. He had so many opulences. Opulences are very difficult to give up. Even if we have a little thing and someone borrows something from us, or we pay someone's bill, you know, that rings in our mind continuously. Oh, I gave this to that person, I should recover it. Okay. But then he had so much, and it is so difficult to give up these things. So why did he want to give up everything, including his life? And Prabhupada is saying actually there was nothing undesirable in his life. Everything was so desirable. He was a young man and he was able to enjoy all the power and opulence. And why? There was no question for him to retire. He was a young man, right? So why would he retire from active life? We see great kings, they chose voluntarily to retire. But Parikshit Maharaj was not so old. In fact, his grandfather just retired. His grandparents, Yudhishthir and others, they had just retired recently. And why did he want to give up his active life? He was so powerful, he was so chivalrous that even enemies would come and bow down to him. And they would surrender all their wealth for Parikshit's benefit. And not only that, he was a pious king. And the kingdom was full of prosperity. The kingdom was not suffering, it was very prosperous. There was enough milk, there were grains, metals, mountains were giving all the metals in full potency. Everything was going well. And if kingdom is going well, you are very happy, citizens are very happy. Why did he have to take this harsh decision of giving up the kingdom and going and fasting on the bank of the river Ganges? So the sages were very inquisitive to hear about all this. शिवाय लोकस्य भवाय भूतये यावुत्तमश्लोकपरायणजना जीवन्ति नात्मार्थमसौ पराश्रयं मुमोच निर्विद्य कुतः कलेवरम्. Translation. What should I do?
Hare Krishna. Mataji.
Can you see the screen? I can't see
No,
the
it's all
screen.
white, Mataji. We can't see anything.
Now you can?
Not yet, Mataji.
I cannot, Mataji. Oh, now
Yeah,
we can.
now we can. Yeah.
And then yum.
Now we can, Mataji.
Okay, can someone read the translation?
Sure, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead live only for the welfare. Mataji, the screen is gone, Mataji.
Yeah, I see that. Just a second. There is some lag in my Zoom. I will reshare. Strange, right? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interest. Hare Krishna.
I think so. Her internet is not stable.
Yes, Mataji.
Let's wait. She'll join back. Preeti Mataji, you want me to share?
Yeah, I think I'm back. I lost Zoom connection. My Zoom just shut down. So I think I should be able to share, Kirtika.
Okay, Mataji.
Yeah. I believe now you all can see. In the Mataji, you were reading. You want to continue?
Mataji, it's not come up yet on my screen. One sec.
Iti Mataji, it's not, yeah.
Okay, now it's visible.
Yeah.
Those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interest. So, even though the Emperor Parikshit was free from all attachments to worldly possessions, how could he give up his mortal body, which was the shelter for others? Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
That's a good point, right? So this Parikshit Maharaj, yes, everything was going well in his kingdom. He had all the opulences. Giving up opulences is very difficult. The people are happy. How did he give up? Now, an argument may be put, yeah, maybe he was very wealthy and he had everything, but he must have been very unattached. So therefore, he could have given it up easily and he could have gone. But then to answer that argument, there is a counter argument. The position of a king is not something that you can ordinarily give up. Why? Because the king's body is the shelter of others. It's a serious responsibility, right? The king is responsible for all his citizens. So, just even if he doesn't have any selfish interest to enjoy the wealth of his kingdom, he cannot just randomly give up his post and run away to the bank of the river Ganges. So, because he's responsible for the welfare of others, for the development and welfare of others. And he's devoted to the cause of the Supreme Lord. He's a representative of the Supreme Lord. Actually, the king is the representative of God for the sake of the people, right? So how could he just give up that kingdom and go and sit in the banks of the river Ganges? That is their follow-up question. So Parikshit Maharaj was an ideal king and householder, but he was also a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And being a devotee of the Lord, he automatically has all good qualifications. You must have heard this multiple times, Prabhupada telling that a devotee automatically acquires all good qualifications. But there might be a person who is not a good devotee, but his qualifications, whatever qualifications he may have, it is ultimately no good unless one becomes a devotee. So this emperor, Parikshit Maharaj, he was a typical example of this. He didn't have any attachment for worldly opulences. He was only concerned about the welfare of the citizens. He did welfare work for the public, and he did not allow slaughterhouses for killing cows. He was a very wise administrator. He cared for the protection of all living entities. Because why Prabhupada is talking about cows is because you know how Parikshit Maharaj goes and speaks for the sake of a bull, right? For the cow and the bull who's being tormented by Kali. So he did not encourage any living entity being tortured in his kingdom. He knew how to perfectly conduct the administration for the happiness of everybody, because everybody is praja. Not only the people, but also the animals, the plants, all the living creatures are his children. They are his praja. So his interest was to please all of them. And actually, he understood that all of them are a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Ultimately, his interest was to please the Supreme Absolute Truth. And because he was pleasing the Supreme Lord, he could see that all living entities are a spark of God. So he was able to see Krishna in everyone, the Paramatma in every living entity, and he respected everybody. So Prabhupada says the Supreme Lord wants all living beings to be obedient to him and thereby become happy. This principle was very well understood by Parikshit Maharaj. So he wanted to guide all the subjects back home, back to Godhead. So he was doing a great job. Parikshit Maharaj was a great administrator. His kingdom was full of opulence. He was an ideal king, showing the right path to everybody. Prabhupada is telling here. At that time, human beings did not eat animals because there were ample grains of food, milk. There was ample grains, milk, fruit, and vegetables for human beings so that they could eat nicely. So like this, Parikshit Maharaj had provided food and shelter. He was a worthy king. Everything was happy during his reign. Okay, he was in charge of the sustenance of all living entities. But then, having such a great responsibility, why did he leave? That is the third question. First question is about Srimad Bhagavatam. Second question is about Shukadev Goswami. The third question is about Parikshit Maharaj. Okay, so now this could probably be the last verse for today. And this is like the sages who are asking these questions, they are very confident that Suta Goswami can answer these questions. So they are expressing their confidence in Suta Goswami and encouraging him to answer these three questions. So answers to these three questions will be the remaining part of first canto. First canto has 19 chapters. Okay, so till the end of the third chapter, we saw answers to the first 6 questions asked by the sages of Naimisharanya. Now, at the end of text 13, we would have seen that the sages of Naimisharanya are asking 3 more questions. Now, these 3 questions are going to be answered right from this remaining part of this chapter until the end of the 19th chapter of the first canto. So if someone asks you what are the contents of Canto 1, we should be able to say that initially it was the 6 questions asked by the sages of Naimisharanya, and eventually they asked 3 more questions and the contents went by. Then later they will ask further questions also towards the end of first canto. But when we come to the end, that time we'll see the Parikshit Maharaj's specific questions. Sages have asked only these. Parikshit will ask Shukadev Goswami certain questions. That we will see as a separate set. Okay. So as far as the sages are concerned, they are 6. Now they are asking 3. I know according to some calculations, it is 4. So don't worry about the number, but only the content we should remember, what they asked. Okay. So 13th question, they are expressing their confidence in Suta Goswami because he can answer the questions. तत्सर्वं नः समाचक्ष्वा पृष्टो यत् इह किञ्चन मन्ये त्वां विषये वाचं स्नातम् अन्यत्र छन्दसा. Can someone read the translation?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I can read. We know that you are expert in the meaning of all subjects, except some portions of the Vedas, and thus you can clearly explain the answers to all the questions we have just put to you. Hare Krishna.
So they are telling that you are an expert because you know the meaning of all the subjects. And you can clearly explain them. Of course, some parts of the Vedas you might not be relevant, so they're not going to ask from different parts of the Vedas. But he is an expert in many, many subjects, and he can answer the questions that is being put to him. So they are expressing their confidence that definitely these questions you will be able to answer. So here, Chandas, right? Anyatra Chandasat. Prabhupada starts the purport talking about the difference between the Vedas and Puranas. So he says the difference between the Vedas and Puranas is like that between Brahmanas and Parivrajakaas. So the Brahmanas, what they do, they are meant to administer some fruitive activities that is mentioned in the Vedas. Now, Vedas, the 4 Vedas, they talk about different kinds of sacrifices that are encouraging fruitive activities. What are the Brahmanas doing? The Brahmanas, they are meant to administer the Vedas, okay? That is talking about fruitive activities. So this is the role of the Brahmanas with respect to the Vedas. But however, the Parivrajakacharyas or the learned preachers, they are meant to disseminate transcendental knowledge to one and all. Now, why is this comparison of the Vedas and the Puranas being compared to Brahmanas and Parivrajakacharyas? Brahmanas are reading the Vedas and they are recommending some fruitive activities from the Vedas. But the Parivrajakacharyas, after going through the Puranas, they are talking about the transcendental knowledge that is presented in the Puranas, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why Srila Jiva Goswami, he wrote the Sandarbhas to teach us that Srimad Bhagavatam is indeed the ultimate praman for everything, greater than any other scripture, be it the Vedas or the Upanishads or the Vedanta Sutras, doesn't matter. Ultimate praman, Tattva Sandarbha is all about establishing Srimad Bhagavatam as the topmost praman, because everything is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The essence of all that you need to know is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada is telling the Parivrajagacharyas are not always expert in pronouncing Vedic mantras, just like Suta Goswami. Suta Goswami may not be an expert in some portion of the Vedas. He might not know all this Karmakandiya chants and all that. So these Parivragacharyas, they are not expert in pronouncing many Vedic mantras in proper meters and accent. Just like the Brahmanas, they are very experts in chanting in proper chandas and proper meter and this and that. But the great sannyasis, they may not be expert in all that, but then they are greater than these Brahmanas because they are giving us transcendental knowledge, not just encouraging some fruitive activity. Prabhupada is telling, actually, there is no difference between Vedic mantras and what is explained in the Puranas and the Itihasas. Jiva Goswami, he has mentioned in the Madhyandina Shruti that all the Vedas, namely Sama, Atharva, Rig, Yajur, Purana, Itihasas, Upanishads, etc., are all emanations from the breathing of the Supreme Lord. The only difference is that Vedic mantras begin with the Pranavakara, Omkara, and require some training because you should practice the Vedic mantras perfectly. You all know the story of Vritrasura, how he, just with the way you pronounce Indra Shatroho, just with the way the, pitch of that word was pronounced, the whole thing changed. Instead of having a person who will kill Indra, he produced a person who will be killed by Indra. That is the power of pronunciation of Vedic mantras. But whereas Bhagavatam is very forgiving, it is very forgiving. You don't have to pronounce all this perfectly, but it is giving you the highest essence. And Prabhupada is saying, just because it doesn't have all these, high funda Vedic mantras, it doesn't mean that Bhagavatam is of any less importance than the Vedic mantras. In fact, it is the ripened fruit of all Vedic literature. We have already said that. Chukamukada Amrita Drava Samyutam Pipata Bhagavata Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Palam. That Galitam, that it is gala, that is, it is heavy. Heavy with what? Heavy with the essence, the realized part of the Vedas. So that is Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadev Goswami, he was absorbed in the studies of the Bhagavatam, though he was self-realized. We saw how he was transcendently situated. He just walked away without even clothes and he didn't care for anything. But even that Shukadev Goswami, he studied the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Suta Goswami is following in his footsteps. Therefore, his position is not any less than a person who's chanting Vedic mantras with perfect metric pronunciation. Actually, this pronunciation, shandas, all this, it is only practice. It is not realization. But then Suta Goswami and Shukadev Goswami, they have immense realization. So Prabhupada is telling realization is more important than parrot-like chanting. A person may be able to quote 100 verses in perfect meter and perfect pronunciation and chandas and whatnot. But then a person who has realized and spoken the same thing without so much fancy stuff is still considered a person who is giving the essence of all the scriptures. So that completes this section. And I will just read the 3 questions. The first question is about Srimad Bhagavatam. When, where, and how, and on whose inspiration Vyasadeva compiled it. This is there in verse number 3. The second question that was asked was about Parikshit Maharaj. What was asked about Parikshit Maharaj? Parikshit Maharaj's birth, his activities, and his renunciation. Why did he decide to give up everything in his kingdom and then sit on the banks of the river Ganges and decide to give up his life? The third question was about Shukadeva Goswami. How was he perceived in Hastinapur by the common people, and how did the meeting of Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami take place? Though Shukadeva Goswami, he stays in the house of a householder only for the time that is required to do Godohana, that is to milk a cow, less than half an hour. Okay. So now what happens is the remaining part of this chapter is going to answer the first question about how Vyasadeva compiles all the Vedas and how he got inspired to write the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is what we will answer first. In that process, we will see the conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva, because Vyasadeva gets his inspiration from Narada Muni. Vyasa's guru is Narada. Narada is the one who inspires him to write the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will see that section. When we are going through that section, we will also see the story of Narada Muni, what Narada Muni underwent to understand the glory of Bhakti. That we will see. And then after that, slowly we'll come to the story of Parikshit Maharaj. Okay, Parikshit Maharaj will first be answered. And for that, right from when Parikshit was in the Garbha of Mother Uttara, from then on the story will start. Okay, so like first how this Brahmastra was hit by Ashwatthama, how the Garbha was protected by the Lord. And then afterwards, finally, after all these, Bhishma Dev passes away, and there is a lot of things that is happening, because when Krishna is departing after protecting the womb, Kunti Maharani, she goes and she offers prayers. Then Yudhishthir Maharaj stops and he says, please don't go. I'm lamenting. I'm feeling very bad that the war has destroyed many people. And to console him, he takes him to the place where Bhishma Dev is passing. So we will see Bhishma Stuti. Then after that, we will see how the Lord departs to Dwaraka. He takes leave after protecting the child. How the Lord enters Dwaraka. After that, we will see the birth of Parikshit Maharaj. That is the answer, right? They asked about the birth of Parikshit. So we will see the birth of Parikshit. Then we will see the activities of Parikshit. And then in between, we will also see if Parikshit Maharaj has to be enthroned, the previous generations have to retire, right? This Yudhishthir, all of them, they have to retire. Then only Parikshit can come to the throne and he can perform his activities of protecting the cow and the bull and chastising Kali. So to see his activities, the previous generation has to retire. So how did they retire? First Krishna retires, then the Pandavas retire. Then Parikshit Maharaj sits on the throne. Then he chastises Kali. Then finally how he gets cursed by the son of Shamik Rishi, Shringi. And finally, they answer the question. He comes and sits in the bank of the river Ganges. So that is the answer to the question about Parikshit. Finally, how Shukadev Goswami comes to Hastinapur is addressed, and then the meeting between Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit. At that time, technically, Bhagavatam should have ended, because first there were 6 questions, then there were 3 questions, right? It should have ended. But then Parikshit Maharaj asks us questions. He asks about what is the duty of a person who's about to die and all that. And then the second canto begins. Okay, so this is what we're going to expect, but I'll stop here. And we will see from text 14, because it's the next section, it is about how Vyasadeva divides the Vedas and Vyasadev's dissatisfaction. That we will do on Thursday. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Bimal Prabhu?
Yeah, Mataji, Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Wonderful class. Mataji, my question is on this text 13, just now, which we went through. So can we say like this, from Vedas, basically Upanishads have come, from Upanishads, Vedanta Sutras have come, and then from Vedanta Sutra, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the commentary on Vedanta Sutra, that is the basically nectar of all the sutras.
Yes, Prabhu, you're right. But it's not like one came from the other. All of them are there. But when we say the essence of the Vedas is the Upanishads, the essence of the Upanishads is there in the Vedanta Sutras. And Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. Srimad Bhagavatam is a part of the 18 Puranas, but it also serves as a natural commentary to the Vedanta Sutras. So you're right. I mean, this is how it is, but it's not like one came from the other. One is the essence of the other. That's
One
how
of
we
the essence.
understand.
Got it. Got it. Mataji, my second clarification is now this section, right, 1 to 13. Can we say this? It is like Sonaka Rishi's further questions to Suta Goswami or additional questions to Suta?
Yes, 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 definitely. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam. Mataji, I just have a quick question on very beautiful class, Mataji. Thank you so much for explaining it in detail. And as you were explaining, just had a question on what the timeline was, because we see later on in the Bhagavatam also that the sages of Naimisharanya were listening and hearing from Romaharshana before before Parikshit Maharaj also hears from Shukadev Goswami, right? Like Balramji comes and he kills Romaharshana with a blade of grass. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were already present at that time before Parikshit Maharaj's time, and they were already listening to, I don't know if they were listening to the Bhagavatam.
They were just listening Krishna Katha.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead, Mataji. Mataji is explaining.
And then we
Hare
hear
Krishna,
now.
Mataji.
Yeah.
So, please accept my respectful obeisances. I'm sorry, I didn't realize my mic wasn't muted. But yes, we had asked this question to Guru Maharaj, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu. And so he was explaining that, yes, they were listening to Katha, but not necessarily Srimad Bhagavatam. They were doing Krishna Katha at that point in time, because this question came up in his assembly as well, that, okay, then the timeline does not match, because if Balramji was already present, then how were they listening to Srimad Bhagavatam, because they had already departed by that time. This is what we hear. So that's what Maharaj was saying, that not necessarily Srimad Bhagavatam, but they were definitely discussing Krishna Katha. Just wanted to add. Hare Krishna. Sorry about unmuting very unceremoniously.
No, thank you for
Sorry about that.
unmuting and telling us the words of Maharaj, because that is the perfect praman. So thank you so much. Thank you. Krishna makes his way. Yeah. Thank you, Indulekha Mataji. Hope that helped.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Shyam Gopal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandot Pranam. Thank you for the class. It was like really very intriguing and lot to learn, lot to again revise it. So my question is regarding Shukadev Goswami, right? So there are many exalted personalities there, and even that one shloka, it was said that he looked at everyone like that. One praman is there that when the ladies were bathing, and he did not have any other emotions. He was like straight. So when he is being chosen as a person to recite Bhagavatam, when so many exalted personalities were there, so he must be doing something right in his life to people to know that this is, because what I heard that whenever he used to drink that milk straight from the cow, only those 4 or 5 minutes he used to be there, and he used to give the whatever his. Now after that, I don't know whether he was sitting or standing anywhere. He was just like moving, right? So how did people know that he's like such an exalted person and his Vani and all those things?
Okay. That will come in the 19th chapter, about how they all see that they see the entry of Shukadev Goswami, and they wait. Actually, they are all waiting for the perfect person to come. This is there in the 19th chapter. You can read that section, the appearance of Shukadev Goswami. That is chapter 19. So basically, what happened? Parikshit Maharaj, he submits himself to many sages who are present there, where he's going to the banks of the He goes and he submits himself to all the sages, and Parikshit asks questions also. Okay, at that moment, Shukadev Goswami, when he was wandering without any indications of any ashram, he was satisfied with himself. He was surrounded by women and children who were just going behind him because they were thinking he's a strange person. Seeing his bodily features, these sages, seeing his bodily features that is mentioned in text 26 and 27 of chapter 19. His bodily features of Shukadev Goswami, he was 16 years old, tender feet, hands, thighs, arms, shoulders, all this is described. And he understanding that this person had all these transcendent qualities that are that of a Mahabhagavat, they could welcome him and they gave him the seat of honor. Just by looking at him, they could perceive his greatness. And Shukadev Goswami was invited, and the other sages pretty much identified that this is an exalted personality, and they gave him the seat of honor. If that helps, Prabhu. Does it make sense?
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Thank you, Mataji. There's one more question not related. So I have like 8 more verses to memorize and record. So do I get like 10 days more, or it's like too late?
Yeah.
10 days is okay?
Not 10 days. I told Mukta, she texted me, Mukta Mataji. And by the way, we have to discuss if everyone is able to paste the link. I heard some complaints that not everyone is able to paste the link. Is that true?
Where to paste the link? That is also where I can just email, text it, or I have to paste it.
No. In the exam sections on the dashboard. So Mataji texted me, she has extended the deadline until May 4th. Okay. For those who have not yet completed. And if there are further issues, we will address it later. But for now, it is at least till May 4th. So don't worry. That is the first thing.
Yes.
Okay. So at least 5 days, don't worry. And
Mataji, I was not able to, sorry, Mataji. I was not able to paste the link.
I heard your name, that you were not able to paste. Anyone was successful? Just let me know first. Anybody was successful? Nobody.
Yes, I was helping Devendra Prabhu, and I was helping Sneha Mataji. They were able to paste it, but I tried from my phone and I tried on the computer. It just wouldn't. I was able to manually type, but whether I do Control V or I try and paste it, I wasn't able to. But Mukta Mataji has reset my attempts to 3. So I'm going to try again today and see if it works.
Yeah, I also remember going and resetting it to 5. Then again, Mukta came and reset to 3. But again, we checked that the copy paste feature was not disabled. That on the back end, we checked that. So you should be able to paste, but I don't know, still people are having problems.
I will try again, Mataji.
Which section you have to like copy paste? Lesson, course view, class records, where means in which section we have to put it?
So on the left-hand side, there'll be a ribbon, and then you scroll down, you will see exams, correct? Am I right? Because I can't see the student portal.
Yes,
Yeah, exams, yeah.
Okay,
In
and
exams.
then you go, you open it up, and then you say, I acknowledge that I will follow the rules or whatever. Then you go, and there'll be a panel to paste the link, or copy paste your link here. There'll be an instruction. Then you have to paste the link of your recording, either from YouTube or from Google Drive. Yeah.
It is not giving us like accept now, nothing there coming. It is like just not allowing, disabled.
Pasting
the
is
Shloka
disabled?
test. The Shloka test, when I have been there, it is showing now attempt now, it is disabled. So there is nothing coming up. Bhakti
Let's do
Shastri
something.
ISO Shloka test.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
With Mukta Mataji, and we'll set it up and we'll give 3 attempts so you can easily paste it. So thank you for letting us know. We'll work with the admin team and we'll figure it out. Okay.
Yeah, I was
Thank
thinking,
you.
Ketida, we can delete this old test and create a new test. That way, this problem is not there for everyone.
Okay, we can do that too. And we
So
can give
Mataji, in my case, it still shows attempt now, 2 attempts left. I don't know why. Because previously it was not That's okay, right? Yeah, all right.
Yeah, because we
Thank you.
made it 3 attempts now, so that's why it is showing you. Don't worry.
Don't worry. Okay. So that is, we will reset the test. We'll create a fresh place where you can paste the link. Forget the old one because it's a mess. We'll create a new one and hopefully we'll give you lots of attempts and it will be very easy for you to copy paste. Okay, hopefully.
Those who have already submitted for them,
I don't think anyone submitted, right?
oh,
Or
Devendra
two.
submitted.
I've already submitted, Mataji, and I was able to submit
Yeah.
long.
Vrinda Vaishnavi also.
I was able to submit because of Nisha Mataji.
So then, okay, we should not create a new test, right? Because then the hours will get lost.
And we have two of them, Mataji, Shloka test 1A and 1B. Right now we have one, Shloka test 1. Can we create another exam and then people who are unable to do it this way can upload it there? Or do you have to delete and create
Or
fresh?
we can reload, like whatever we have done, who has submitted, we can do submit again. I think they, because the link is already there, we just have to copy and paste it. So
Yeah,
I'm okay.
that's right. Because then it could get confusing. So let's just have one test. We'll delete the old test, create a new test with all the features. And then whoever has already submitted, please repaste the link in the new feature. Maybe that way we have everything uniform. Sorry. Sorry for those who took the effort to do it. Yeah. Okay.
Mataji, why don't you just create more attempts, like 3 attempts
Yeah.
for everybody?
That is already
so
done.
that
Still they are placed.
I haven't tried after the
People
attempts were
tried.
reset.
Yeah, some people
So
tried
maybe
even
it will work. Oh, some people tried. Okay, that's fine.
Some people tried and still the pasting is not enabled for them. Even Mukta Mataji herself logged in as a student and she tried and she couldn't paste. So, yeah.
This must have
Okay.
just started because it was fine till day before yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what even I'm thinking. Initially it was okay. Now suddenly nobody's able to paste. So anyhow, we'll create a new test and we'll fix it. Please, everyone who already pasted, paste it in the new exam. Once it's ready, I will put a message in the group. Okay. But your date is extended till 3rd. That is till end of Sunday. Okay. And Tulsi Gopi Mataji, you have a question? Tulsi Gopi Mataji. Okay. Anyone else has a
Also, Mataji, Bimal Prabhu has this question about the presentation. So I want to address that.
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the wonderful class.
Yeah,
Hare
one
Krishna.
second. Tulsi Gopi, 1 minute.
Also, Mataji,
Kirtida Mataji was making an announcement.
Bimal Prabhu
Just
has this question. Yeah, I was just saying that Bimal Prabhu had this question about the presentation. So want to make it clear that don't worry, your presentation will be after the 3rd canto. Okay, once your 3rd canto is finished, then you have to present one session that is 40 minutes long and topics will be given to you and it's there in your study guide. You can choose any one topic. Okay, only one presentation you have to give for 40 minutes followed by 15 minutes of question and answer. It's just like giving class and that will happen after the 3rd canto is finished. So Bimal Prabhu, don't worry. You still have a lot of time.
Thank you, Mataji.
And also, I think Krishnavani Prabhu asked this. He asked this question: when is the OBT and CBT due? It is due only after the end of 1st canto, right, Kirtida Mataji?
No, Mataji, it is due after the end of 11th chapter because Canto 1 has 2 modules, 1 to 11th chapter and then 12 to 19.
After 11th chapter, yeah. Krishnavani Prabhu, it's after 11th chapter. I think we'll leave a text message in the group if you're not listening now. Yeah. Okay. Mataji, we have to leave a text message in the group when the CBT OBT is due and when the presentation is due. Okay.
Bhakti, one small clarification. This time in the slokas, we had some slokas which are already in the next canto. So similarly, do we have any changes in the slokas given in the workbook, or we have to follow everything?
No. We'll give you shloka list. We'll give you till end of third chapter. We have given you for test 2. We will give a fresh list.
Yes,
Don't worry.
Maharaj, because it takes quite some time for us to recite. I mean, to memorize. So
So many shlokas.
yeah. So yeah, so that no, it takes at least a month because with all the other schedules, we don't want to do it bad.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah.
We'll
Mataji,
yes.
sorry. Regarding the closed book test, will you be giving us questions or are we picking up the questions from the handbook?
What do you say, Kirtida Mataji? I think we should just follow the handbook, right?
We'll follow the handbook and everything will come from that question bank only. I know the marks are not mentioned, but we will make sure the marks are mentioned. And from there only your test will come. Okay, Nisha Mataji?
Yes,
Do we
Mataji.
need
Thank you.
moderator?
Mataji's questions or typing in the system? There are two components we can do, Mataji: writing and scanning and sending, or typing. Which is the methodology you want to use?
Typing is best. But if you want to handwrite, you can handwrite also.
Yeah, it's easier. Not everybody can. For example, my auntie, she cannot type. So she was questioning about it. So I asked this. Not even I cannot type very fast, Mataji.
You can handwrite and then you can upload.
Yeah, scan it and upload it in the dashboard, right, Mataji?
But please make sure the writing is legible.
Oh, no. No, it will be very legible, Mataji. We are all good writers. Okay, thank you.
And Prabhu, Narahari Prabhu has asked for the Srimad Bhagavatam summary slides. I'm just again opening up the link and I will share it now because otherwise I'll forget. Yeah, I will share it right away, Prabhu. I'm just on the drive. I'm trying to open it up.
Thank you, Mataji.
Anything else?
So, Mataji, we should just wait until you let us know that you have reset the shloka test in the portal, and then we will upload.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I won't try to do it now.
1 minute, Nisha Mataji, can you do one favor that after this class is over, why don't you just try to upload or copy paste? If you are able to, then let me know. And if you are not able to, then let me know so we can make changes accordingly.
I'll do that, Mataji. I'll do it right away.
I'll wait for your message. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay. Now in this Bhakti Vaibhav group, I am sending the link to your PPTs. You can use this. Okay. Yeah. PPTs of chapters. Some are maybe not there. Don't worry, it's all work in progress. It will keep coming. Okay. So if you don't find a PPT, you'll find it later in a few months. As and when needed, you will get it. Okay. So anything else? I think Tulsi Gopi said that she doesn't have proper connection, so she might ask her question later. So if there are no other questions, we can end here. So Kirtida Mataji, the final is that we are using the same test. If it's working, if Nisha Mataji gets back to us saying it works and she can paste, then we're just using the same. Otherwise, we're changing it. Correct?
Yeah. We'll wait for her reply.
Okay. Any other messages? I'm trying to see. Okay. For closed book, do we need a moderator? No, right?
No.
Do they need
Class itself will be moderated.
It is self-moderating. So don't worry. Yeah. Okay. Then one more message is there. Thank you. Okay, that's all. Okay, we'll end here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna.
That's
Sorry, Mataji.
Jai. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.